nestled between sizable acreages of rural farmland and the forest of the gnarly. A sprawling settlement is suddenly revealed as you approach. It is understandable that you could not see it easily from the road, as the folk of the settlement do not live in houses of wood or brick, but in burrow holes found in hillside overlooking a pond, providing water to the gardens of the hill's inhabitants. Every bolt hole home is secured with a door, all idiosyncratic and hand-tooled, fitted with glazed peak windows, and sized not for humans, but for diminutive gnomes. The stoves of each home connect to smokestacks peeking out the far side of the hill, in a demonstration of ingenuity. To be sure, there are small buildings here and there in the center of the village itself, shops and taverns and even an inn, with a bard for visitors. But those who are not fully engaged in trade or camaraderie are in their homes, enjoying their creature comforts as the bantam gnomes are wont to do. Hello, welcome back to the Three Orcs channel. Today we're going to cover another village in the Viscounty of Verbobonc. This map that I'm showing you now is from Anna Meyer's. She let me borrow this for my campaign, and I keyed in all the locations in the Verbobonc and southern Ferrandi and part of Valuna and all of the gnarly forest and some of the wild coast. I gave myself a wide range of territory for my players to come from, or my NPCs that extend their range of influence over the area with ties to the Temple of Elemental Evil. I mentioned that before in previous videos, my idea of how to run the Temple of Elemental Evil in a grand epic campaign, which is basically a typical dungeon crawl, but if you expand it, it can turn into a big grand epic campaign that covers a large area with outside influences. And so what I did was I combined it with the idea of the Game of Thrones type politics. And there's almost a dozen nobles in the Viscounty of Verbobonc itself, with Wilfric, the Viscount himself, overruling the Council of Lords. And in my campaign, my players get involved with some of the nobles, and that they earn the animosity of other lords because of their help of their rivals. Most lords are, they have greed and jealousy and influence, and their aims are their own that most people are unaware of. There's rumors going around, slanderous rumors of what some of the lords are up to, what their aims are, their objectives. Some could be just from greed or jealousy. Others could be evil, which they work for the Temple of Elemental Evil itself, providing support, supplies, and slaves to them. So in my previous video, I said that I started my campaign out in the city of Verbobonc. And I'll zoom in here on the map. And I figure that's a great place to showcase the field, the politics of the region, the feel of the county, the Viscounty, of the state things are in, the tension with the gnomes in the Cron Hills, banditry on the highways, piracy on the rivers and streams, and from there I send them on a quest for a noble to help them out, and then they end up going south, and then they continue from one series of adventures to another, continuing southwards. My previous video, I did a video on Verbobonc. Looking at the map here, the first village south of Verbobonc is Verbobonc, which is pretty much the breadbasket of the Viscounty. It's a huge trade center on the river and on the 4 highways that connect these other towns, which are within anywhere from 10 to 12 miles away. This video, I've continued south all the way down past the moat house to Sheernobb. This video is going to be on Sheernobb, and it's a gnome town outside of the Green Valley of the Cron Hills. So to the west is the Greenway Valley, and I keyed in 4 different villages of gnomes here. Tolvar is the capital of the Green Valley, where the major head of the households live, the large clans. Prince Jim is from there, which he resides in Verbobonc City for political reasons. And as you leave the Greenway Valley through the Kron, the fortress of Kron, which is like a narrow pass, like from the Lord of the Rings, the castle that blocks the pass. You come out to the Viscounty itself, and this is still part of the Kron Hills, and this part of the Kron Hills is covered like a green carpet by the gnarly forest. So it's very rugged, very hilly, craggy, with thick, dense trees of the gnarly. And in the pocket of that is Sheernobb. To the north is the moat house, is the village of Hamlet with the moat house. In the T1 module, you start off at first level at the T1 module at the village of Hamlet, and you go investigate the moat house. Well, the moat house is just one of the outposts from the Temple of Elemental Evil, and it's geared and keyed for a first level group. So my players will come across that, of course, and then they're gonna find other rumors, other leads that will lead them further south. I'm gonna steer them clear of Nolb because they're still going to be under third level. Nobody should approach Nolb until you're at least fifth or higher. So I'll be steering them southwards through rumors and leads and rumors that they find out. So going south towards Ostwerk is Sheernobb, which is a great village that I keyed for the campaign. If you go further south, you have Ostwerk, where one of the mounted border forts is, and also a fort of the elves from Selene itself. If I zoom out, you'll see that the fairy kingdom of Selene is to the south, and Ostwerk is right on the border. And so in my campaign, I have a lot of quest missions down there that they can follow up on, which will help them gain higher levels before they tackle on the big temple. I also have many other temple outposts keyed throughout the region here. There's one, the fire, temple, water, earth, and air all have their own separate outposts. But for now, Sheernobb is keyed for them to either the pass through, maybe stay the night, maybe recruit henchmen, maybe to get supplies, or I actually have a couple plot points in that village for the players to encounter. So let's go ahead and look at Sheernobb. The introduction of Sheernobb is what I read in the introduction of this video. I write things like this to get me going when it comes to role playing. So I'll read most of this loosely to the players as they approach the village to give them like an idea, a narrative idea what it's like to go to that village. So the gnomes of Sheernobb itself, it was referred to in several of the Living Greyhawk modules. And they just refer to it with some non-player characters in their modules, in that adventure. So I went ahead and I just created the village ground up using Wonderdraft, the application, and I created all the NPCs there. And I actually fit it into the world of Greyhawk. So the gnomes of Sheernobb are primarily forest gnomes. I chose that because I run Castles and Crusades, but any kind of gnome that will fit the Greyhawk world, of course. The heart of the gnome village is actually some number of humans that have settled among the small folk. Several rock gnomes reside in the village proper as well, or more correctly, under the village, as their tiny homes were where they work all manner of crafts. Sheernobb is garrisoned by the Viscount's forces to protect the little settlement, and the small keep in the village is held by one of the Viscount's knights and his retainers. I didn't actually create a small keep in this village. I created a guard station. I felt that was too much. And so in my map, you'll see the guard station where they have men posted there. And their duties just focus on travel up and down the Merchant Road. Glendock Keeleen is the head gnome of Sheernobb for over 60 years. He's a non-player character from one of the adventures that I'm using. I have a full rundown on who he is and all about his clan. And, the Keen family, I'll show you that. So the Keen family clan is all here. I got rumors and all the stats and all the members of the clan. So that's all keyed out. So he's the actual head gnome of Sheernobb. The Keeleen clan actually has their own. The The main part of that clan resides in Greenway Valley. So let's go back there, actually. So if I go to Greenway Valley, it's one of these. Okay, yes. Thelokati, I think I pronounced that right, is the village of the Tilene family. Yulin is the village of the Jalink family. And Winalone, or Winaloni, the village of the Killeen family. So the original Killeen, the head gnome of the entire clan, that's where they reside, and they have their own mines. The Greenway Valley is rich with gem mines, and they jealously guarded mine, and nobody knows where they're located at exactly. The gnomes will not allow strangers to find them. And then Tolvar, of course, is the, like I said previously, is the center of the Greenway Valley and the head clan. So Sheernobb is out here, and let's go back to his description here. The history. So Sheernobb was founded by the Killeen family long before the Suel migration. A wonderful Greyhawk YouTuber by the name of The Grey League does some amazing animated videos of the history of Greyhawk and the migrations of all the human races. And he actually refers to this area in his videos. If you want to get more information about the gnomes that lived here and the migrations from the Suel that came to this area. And sure enough, it is the Suel migration that affected this area. The Ardi came much later, tried to invade more north, tried to invade the city of Verbobonc, but were repelled by the knights and paladins of Slytherin. So, the original Sheernobb Killeen himself, so his first name was Sheernobb, when the gnomes of the Cron Hills shared the realm of the elves of the city of Verbobonc. So you got to remember, when you watch the video of the city of Verbobonc, originally it was an elven settlement before the migration of the Suel. There was no war or class of arms. When the migration of the Suel came to the area where the elven settlement was, they simply just kind of moved in with them, and slowly the elves just relinquished the area and migrated south. Not all of them, obviously, because there is a neighborhood in Verbobonc that's elven, and they still exist there and get along well with the humans. But they still refer themselves as part of the Selene Kingdom. So, over the years, the Killeen family mines the rare gems from the hills. They send their warriors and spellcasters to help in the Hateful Wars, which was 400 or 500 years ago, I believe. I have that all written out here too, of course, even with pictures. So that was back in 498 Common Year to 510 Common Year. The County of Ulick, Selene, the Duchy of Ulick, the Gnomes of the Cron Hills, and the Principality of Ulick and Veluna got together, and he cleaned out the Lortmill Mountains from the humanoid and giant infestation there. They also helped out with the Battle of Emridy Meadows. So go on, we'll move down to the demographic area. The common gnome people are miners, hunters, and craftspeople. Merchants are higher up on the economic ladder, and at the top, the merchant lords are considered akin to gnomish nobility. That refers to a head of a clan. The merchant lords, or the clan leaders, this is probably what we should be calling them, hold much of the wealth of the gnomish society and have many contacts with outside groups. They are the targets of gossip, and their events are elite affairs. And that's very you can see that very clearly in the city of Verbobonc. Less successful gnomes are shopkeepers who live above their establishments. Urban areas, middle-class gnomes are teachers and clerks. Farmers, shepherds, and minor officials make up the middle class in the rural lands of this area, and are, on the whole, more content with their lives, rarely wanting for much. They enjoy life. Defenses. So I only outlined a scouting company because, truthfully, that's probably the only time the party will actually engage any kind of military might from the gnomes. It'll be a scouting party, a gnome scouting party, and it usually consists of 2 to 5 gnomes, scouts, and one would be a lieutenant, more experienced, older. Kind of like that movie Wizards. You remember that? When the older man, The young little gnome fighters were huddled in the trenches in that war against Scorch. So, in industry and trade. The gnomes will trade their elaborate gemwork for raw goods, which they further refine and then sell again. Gnomes without salt readily available go great lengths to acquire it. And gnomes will barter for much of their food, fabric, and raw industrial metal. Gnomish merchants are known to take great loads either or will pay hardy laborers to cart around their goods. Trade is typically conducted among the clans, or merchant lords. I should change that. Sheernobb includes 2 monasteries for arts and teaching, a central amphitheater, and a guild hall for the clan. I need to change that. On the right-hand side, we have some artwork. Population 111. I keyed these following locations, 1 through 22. This is the ruler, the organization. So they are illegally within the Viscounty of Verbobonc itself. This village is. And I have characters that I made, NPCs that I made up. And the plots. This module that I used is that one right there. It's a Living Greyhawk module that I'm using for one of the adventures in my campaign. So I put some names in here. Any good DM will have a list of names ready to go. And then we got... I found this on the internet, which is really great for role-playing. I had a thought that maybe when the players get there, there'll be little gnome children running around with flowers and garlands and ball of string or something, leaves, maybe slingshots. And then maybe there's a teacher in a ring of children around here, and maybe they'll be singing this fairy song. I thought that'd be kind of neat. And, anything to set the mood, to set the stage for immersion, to get the players to feel like they're really at a gnomish village. A major goal of mine is immersion. I want the players to care for the NPCs and the villages they go to. So that way, when they get into trouble in the adventures, when highly dramatic things happen in the world, the players are going to be more engaged and they care more. So let's go ahead and look at the map. So this is the entrance of the village where I had that narrative. Hamlet is that way to the north. So you travel down the road south. I'm zoomed all the way in, by the way. And we have, I believe 5 was my guard station. Or it might have been, I think it might have been 4, but we'll go through those. These are shops. And I scroll down to an inn. An inn and stables. At the inn, of course, at the entrance, there's always a trough for horses to water the horses. And on the back, I had a back patio with a little pond so they can eat their meals out there if they want. I wanted to make this kind of special. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out first. So you start from the north and you head south into the village itself. And the first building you're going to see walking into the village is the inn. Because most of these other locations are underground. Let's see, I'll zoom in again for you. See, like 36, 35, 32? These are burrows and little chimneys that have sticking out from the hill. And that's rock. I'll zoom out again. So the middle, number 1, is the moot hall. In front, I have a statue. I have seating like a grandstand for events where they can all sit down and listen to speakers or any kind of event that's going on. And I have some merchant tents set up. So they can, on market day, they can sell wares out in the street. And I would expect that more tents would pop up in the area on those days. To the north, I put an outside farm. And to the west is a pond with some interesting things. I put some fae into it. There's a windmill, a little dock with a fishing boat. They like to go fishing there often. And if we go further west, this goes to Kron. That goes through the castle, which is Kron Fortress, which is the only entrance into the Greenway Valley. Or you have to go through the west end. There's no way to enter the Greenway Valley north or south. The only way to enter that area is either from the east or the west. So let's go back. And I have a little stream running through the village. Zoom out. And so we got more farms to the south. So, you know, the gnomes do grow their own crops on the top side, but a lot of their shops and homes are underneath. And to the south, continues along the merchant road to Ostwerk, which is on the border of the Selene, the fairy, on the border of Selene, the fairy kingdom. So I want to show you something else. The World of Greyhawk map I get from Anna Myers is wonderful, great art, and it's very useful. But you can only zoom in so far. So I created some local area maps to zoom in to bring out more detail in the area. So this map is of the southern Viscounty. If you scroll into Sheernobb here, it's 1 mile hexes that you can't see here, but it's on a scale of 1 mile. If you go up to the village of Hamlet, you'll see that it's like 10, 12 miles away. And then Nolb is another, 12 miles up along the high road. Then there's the low road. And then there's Greenway Valley, and you go north up to Deschutes Ford. So as you can see, everything's within 10 to 12 miles away. Hummingbird End, way to the east in the midst of the gnarly forest, is rather farther away. Chiselwood is another gnome village. And then you got, of course, Ostwerk to the south. And here's the scale. 10 miles is that distance. So what I did is I created a more detailed map of certain events in the area and other outposts. Everything in black is encounters and outposts in the campaign itself that have their own articles written for them. Let's go back to the village of Sheernobb, the article. So we'll start with number 1. Number 1 is the Moot Hall. I have a description. In the center of this small village stands the largest hill. Wide stone steps lead to a set of large stone doors with runes carved in the stone mantle of the door. I'm always adding more verbiage. I should write that in there. That's gnome. I use a gnome translator. Nietefikelu kilunveralu. That's close enough. What it means in common is, if you see it, it's not the right it. A phrase used to remind gnomes of the first appearances can often be deceiving, and to look deeper for the truth. A lot of these gnomes, there's a lot of illusionists in this village. The gnomes specialize on illusionary spells. So the biggest building is the feasting hall, which is served for special village gatherings. There's a long circular table rings the round building so it can celebrate and enjoy as equals, giving excellent view to the center's activities. And I never came up with a picture or a map of inside. So until I do, I'll have my players just imagine when they walk in there, it's like a amphitheater, big round room, and the tables and chairs are big round, it wraps around the room where everybody can, like almost like the Knights of the Round Table, where they can equally see the activities in the middle of the room. I do have a description of the hall foyer and the front doors. And there's a gnome chapel below. A temple to the priceless gem is unassuming and hidden. Garl Glittergold's temple takes the form of an unassuming, often magically hidden shrine and chapel. I just refer to it here that it's down below. It's underground of the Moot Hall, circular dome ceiling divided to 4 quadrants, wall ceilings decorated in gold leaf, studded with gold nuggets. The entire town of Sheernobb prays to all the gnome gods here, but celebrate in the Moot Hall above. All right, so that's... The next location is the Killeen family statue. Let's see if I don't know if I have any artwork for that, but... this ancient stone statue is the original founder of Sheernobb Killeen. It has been enchanted by a permanent gnome illusion, magic of Sheernobb, laughing while playing the lute before a captivated audience. Whenever there is smiling and dancing gnomes nearby, the illusion will activate to dance and play the pipes with a grin and wink. The base of the statue of stone has been overgrown with a thick blanket of green moss. So that's an interesting landmark that the players can discover in the village. Next will be number 3. The Honeyhaven Inn. I got this idea from one of the random inn generators online, and then I adjusted it and edited it to fit the campaign and the location. So I have a description, an outdoor description of what the building looks like from outside. I have another one. I have smell coming out. They can smell what's being cooking inside, and the fireplace that's crackling, the chandelier, tapestries, all that, for the players to notice when they get inside the building. This is a gnome-run tavern and brewery, caters to visitors to the village, and offers a fine selection of mead. Honey Haven provides no food or accommodations. Locals also do frequent the tavern, and it's frequently busy. Okay, so that flat out is wrong. On this map I borrowed on the right as a placeholder until I draw a map for this location, obviously has rooms upstairs, and this will be a place for the players to stay while they're in the village. So I'll have to rewrite that sentence. Glennon and Marie Clee, both gnomes, decided to follow in their older sister's footsteps. Her name is Pass Marie Clee. To make their living from honey. Rather than raise bees, they use honey to craft superb mead, which they sell exclusively in the tavern they built up around the brewery. Locals and visitors alike enjoy sampling the mead and Honey Haven. Their sister, she's a druid, a gnome druid, and she has her own beehives, which is described elsewhere. Then we have Quina Pole, which is a half-orc with slight features, who serves as the inn's cook, and a staff of 5 runs the inn, which sees hundreds of visitors a year. Since the inn provides the last vestige of civilization for those entering the gnarly forest. That's a point, Traveling south from the village of Hamlet, you're slowly entering the Cron Hills and the woods of the gnarly forest. And so you're climbing up into the Lort Mills, actually, as you're traveling south. And then after leaving Senega Valley, which is a vineyard and a farm community, you actually start entering the Cron Hills and the gnarly forest. And so this is actually the first place since leaving the Viscounty behind, the farmlands of the Viscounty behind, and you enter the forest and the Cron Hills. Okay, so she sees it as a sacred duty to offer a welcoming atmosphere for her guests. So it goes on and on about supplies and vegetables and such. And I got a little, I have a little menu on the right-hand side. And the pricing for a bed. I don't have number 4 keyed yet, which is north of the inn. But I do have number 5, so let's go ahead and look at number 5 next. Okay, so number 5 is the Sheernobb guardhouse. It's a local militia guardhouse. The Sheernobb militia maintains their on-duty guard and patrols here. The gnome militia stops and questions all travelers coming into the village. Patrols report to the duty officer here at the house. So when the players arrive at Sheernobb, a lot of times players are looking forward to talking to the authorities or asking for directions or what's going on in the area. And a lot of times they'll approach guards or the guard station or the guard tower for that information. So I want to make sure that this was here for them and what kind of support they can expect from them. So there's only going to be like maybe 4 guards here, and then there's going to be a patrol either arriving or going that travel the area. The patrol's duty does not really include the main merchant road coming from Senega Valley to Ostwerk. That's really the duty of the mounted borderers, but their duty is to patrol the farmlands around the village area. From incursions of humanoid monsters from the Lort Mill Mountains, others that dwell within the Cron Hills or the gnarly forest. Okay, so number 6 is the bookend on the map. Number 6 is located right here to the west of the Moot Hall. I'll zoom in for you. So 6 and 7 are right next to each other. These are little shops. The bookend. This small cottage is in fact a shop, as the little sign on the gate denotes. Books and maps clutter the windows, and studded oak door bears the sign, "Welcome to the bookend." I have a description of what the bookstore looks like inside and out. We have some prices on local maps, copying of books, copying maps. Always interested in buying maps. and journals. He's a collector, so it's a good place to go. His name is Grendon. He's small even for a gnome. He's an illusionist. So he's got shock white hair, seems to defy gravity, thick lenses for glasses. So he's going to be an interesting character for the party to engage. So the next one after number 6 is number 7, Naglo Crystal Divine Shop. We'll go there. Bright baubles, pretty little things are bound, dangling from hooks, laid across tables, collected in boxes, rings, necklaces, hairpins, bracelets, armbands. So this is actually a little shop that's run by an aging, paranoid, neurotic gnome. So he's going to be a lot of fun to roleplay. Naglo sells a wide assortment of scrying crystals and mirrors, looking glasses, and patented listening tools that he uses on a daily basis. Some of his inventions are actually helpful, like his peek around that angles 2 mirrors inside of a square tube, the look around corners. So he's quite an interesting character to engage. And he has a little quest I added. And below the shop is his burrow. So if you go down the steps, that's where he lives, down below. Now, after number 7, we have 8, Kenkeep's Shop. So we'll go ahead and look at that. It's a charming... The charming smell of wet ink and dusty parchment stirs the senses as you step through the open, ornamented, stained glass door. Wax candles light a pathway through the store, winding past stacked books and loose pages. So this is a full description of the shop and a map of the settlement here on the wall. Greeting! Come in! Oh, please come in. An old gnome that stands behind the counter in the shop. There's barely enough room to move without knocking something over. The old gnome behind the counter smiles. So this is a general store that can be visited through the adventure. If the adventurers need to stock up on supplies. An overhanging roof has numerous trinkets, tables full of wares. It's cramped. There's calligraphy supplies, cartography tools, cook utensils, dice sets, playing cards, a pan flute, traveling and camping gear. His daughter assists. Her name is Glibby. She's quick to get excited on rare items of note. Gleefully asks a stream of questions to adventurers and is a good source of local finds and treasure, and obviously of rumors. So that's a fun thing to roleplay. And he's an illusionist as well. So he has some power that he can use and some knowledge in the ways of magic. The next shop will be number 9, Peony Mill. It's not a shop, it's an actual mill. The mill stands on the east bank of the Banesfinger pond. Its panes turn slowly in the Lort Mill winds. The sound of grinding stone over grain can be heard from inside. A rickety set of wooden steps lead up to the unlocked side door. So more description. The owner of this mill is Smarbass Peon. The Peon family gnomes have been in the village miller for over 100 years. His wife and 3 children help run the mill and participate at the weekly market. Not too much description here of that location, but if we go to the pond, we have something here. So this description is, the blue and violet waterfalls pour softly in the timid pond, bejeweled with white and green water lilies. The trees rise tall and slender up from the grassy flower spank. So it goes on about describing what this pond looks like. It's set at the western edge of the village, near the docks and the windmill. Green and lush still water filled with life. A cover of leaves floating, water lilies, reeds, and scent of wild sweet clover. So gnomes taste the dewy sweetness of the grassy stalk shoot plucked from the ground. The locals spend days of fishing on the banks. Warm sun on the skin and soft grasses of moss against the back as they relax to wings flapping and birds trilling and frogs croaking and the buzz and hum of insects. And then we have a little secret about the fairy pond here that the players should not know about yet. So looking at the map again, I zoomed in to the pond, and number 9 is the mill. I'll zoom back out for you. The next location is number 18 that I actually keyed. It's Slemzok's Grocer. Let's go ahead and look at that. And before we go into that, let's look at the map real quick. So it's 18. It's right across the way from the Moot Hall. It's just a borough that they use as a shop. So there's no cottage on the top side. You enter the grocery shop and see that inside the small borough. You enter the grocery shop and see that inside the small borough is reasonably tidy. The shopkeep is rolling a thick, puffy ball of dough onto a wood slab, raises a hand with a wave and walks to you, and introduces himself as Slemzok Hill, the proud owner of Slemzok Grocery. You see tables overrun with abundance of fruits and vegetables. The smells of greenery, juice, and dirt greet you as you descend into the borough. This is a little description of a location where the party can come to find food. And also, his specialty is travel nut cakes to be used as rations. The next location is number 20. That's the Keeleen Head Gnome Home. Glendark Keeleen, as the mayor, has the largest home in the village. Medium-sized creatures will need to bend down in order to stoop their heads from hitting the ceiling. Larger creatures will be unable to enter the house and will need to wait outside. So anyway, this is his office and library. We have a map that I got here for it. So that's very helpful. A lot of meetings with the players will take place here, depending on which adventure they're on. There's often not only nobles, but heads of clans or mayors of towns. They'll often seek out help from players, heroes of the realm. And it's a little description of what he looks like and the location. So let's go ahead and find out where that is on the map, which is number 20. Which is across the way from the Moot Hall again. So let me zoom in. And there it is. There's 18, the grocery. 20 is the head gnome. And then there's the Moot Hall and statue. So let's go ahead and go to the next location. 21 is Dinzidak Apothecary. This is a great location because often there's players in the group that deal in herbalism or potions or rare ingredients that they find in dungeons. I have a description of the borough itself and a little bit of a map there. Dinjadak and his wife, Sheely, is the village's herbalist. They provide the medicines and herbs in care of the villagers. They harvest the local forests regularly and regularly purchase herbs from travelers and merchants. Great place for a druid in the group or a ranger that have herbalism skills. Okay, next location is number 22, Tubok Shop. I'll just show you these two locations on the map. Let me see, 21 and 22. Okay, on the map, let me zoom in. It's right behind the Moot Hall. Behind the Moot Hall to the left is number 22. And then, just south of the Moot Hall, number 21. The rich smell of burned pipeweed can be detected from down the block, from down this trail, across the village. No doubt owing to the proprietor of the Tobak shop and their clientele, indulging in their favorite vice on the premises. Bunzbart, an aged gnome, runs the shop. He has a constant stream of smoke drifting from his nose and ears. When talking to others, he seems to be focused on the distance behind them. But he's an expert in all lore of tobacco herbs. Some are related to the herbalism effects. So this is an interesting character and a shop that can be further developed for the party. Okay, last location that I actually keyed is number 37, Pasmarie's Beehives. Let's take a look at that. So this is that druid I talked about. Her family members run and own the Honey Haven Inn in town. So large honeybees inhabit a dozen artificial hives. Most are constructed by Pasmarie, Clee's grandmother. The bees produce an exceptionally sweet honey, and the gnome and her workers, nature clerics and druids of varying levels, keep the bees docile and prevent visitors from disturbing the hives. The bees produce copious amounts of honey, so Pasmarie shares the bounty with her siblings at the Honey Haven. Tavern Inn. She also sells honey to the inn, at a reduced rate. The bees have been thriving under her care, greatly increasing population. So the gnome is considering building a 13th hive. So I actually developed her as a non-player character. Now, what's interesting about her, I love that picture. What's interesting about her is she is a major resource in the area. You know, we know the head of the gnomes is the clan leader of the gnomes of the village. You know, he's a huge resource because he commands the militia and the scouts and the whole entire village. But herself and also the other illusionists that you over at the Tinker Shop are the most powerful characters in the entire village. So she is a 7th level druid, and she's got fairly good stats. She's neutral. She was born in the year 487 Common Year. Her personal history is Marie's mother took over the beekeeping business from her mother, and Pasmere has done likewise. She takes beekeeping seriously and works to grow her colonies. The gnome is proud of her bees and talks about them as if they were her children. She welcomes visitors to the beehives and have a couple of protective outfits for those who arrive to view her bees. Her main concern is her bees, and she becomes defensive if she notices someone provoking them. So we can see some players might be doing that. She speaks quickly, almost buzzing when she does. She can't stand in one place for long and fidgets, and busies herself with various chores during conversations. I actually have an encounter that I developed where her bees get loose, and the whole town is an uproar of chaos while she tries to wrangle them back into their hives, and the party will get involved in one way or another. Another thing that you can use her for is as a rescue. If there happen to be within the main area of this village and something happens to the party, it's always a possibility that somebody powerful in the area might come at the right moment to help the players out. And so I always have that in mind no matter where they are in the world. And she's a definite force in this area of the world. Within 10 miles of the village, no more than that. And I would allow her to have an army of bees. Even be able to lift a player up off the ground and carry them through the air with magic, of course, or drive away monsters and help the party, or maybe even heal the party. So the imagination is limitless when it comes to something like that. Something to look good. It's something to consider. Okay, that wraps up my review of Sheernobb and the map. I will have this available. I will have the map available to share for free on my Patreon. I will not be behind a paywall. I use Wonderdraft to create it, and a lot of the art objects in the map are from other Patreons that I signed up with, and I'm allowed to share this with others freely as long as I don't charge anything for it. I don't have a commercial license with them to resell their clip art. So you're welcome to use this for your own campaign and enjoy it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to list that below or contact me over at the Patreon. If you want to hear anything more details on some of these locations, or maybe things I might have left out that you might find more interesting or vital to a campaign, let me know, and I can add this information to my videos to help, and also create these articles to have more information in them. But I wrote them for myself to run my campaign, and I feel like it gives it sufficient material to be able to do something like that. Did you enjoy this video? Maybe consider tossing some support my way through my Patreon, because that's the best way to support my channel. Thank you very much. Have good gaming, and I'll see you next time.